Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Temple of the Living God here in beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida. It's a lovely day in the neighborhood. It absolutely is, and we want to give a special shout out to anybody in the services, the service branches, because today is Memorial Day, and we honor and appreciate what you do. I want to take one quick minute and introduce you to the Goodfellows. Over here is Alex Garrido. Give him a round of applause. He's a wonderful keyboard player and my dear friend.
And a new keyboard.
And a new keyboard, actually. This is a new keyboard we have today for you. And this is Randy. This is Lonnie Nichols, another dear friend on drums. So these are the Goodfellows. My name's Carol Mitchell. And if you've ever come to the church, you know at the end of the service, you'll be flying high. Yeah, there we go. Well, it's a sunny day and I'm glad to be alive. I'm doing what I want, I've given up my 9 to 5. I'm living life from love and I'll soon be flying high. Well, I'm flying high, like the birds in the sky. Flying high, kissing the bad times goodbye. Well, if you're looking for me, look up, 'cause I'm flying high. Well, I've always been told to live life by the rules. The ones that Mama taught me, those you learn in school. And I finally decided I ain't nobody's fool. 'Cause now I'm flying high, I'm like the birds in the sky. Yes, I'm flying high, kissing the bad times goodbye. Well, if you're looking for me, look up, 'cause I'm flying high, yeah. Well, the good times are rolling, I won't let them pass me by. I'm gonna grab some of the gusto, gonna get a big piece of the pie. I decided what I want, and that's the reason why. That's the reason why I'm flying high. I'm like the birds in the sky. Flying high, kissing the bad times goodbye. Well, if you're looking for me, look up, 'cause I'm flying high. Well, if you're looking for me, look up, 'cause I'm flying high. Well, if you're looking for me, look up, 'cause I'm flying high. Yeah. All right.
And I am delighted to welcome back with us once again our friend Jeremy McDonald, whose title sounds very intriguing. What goes around comes around, yeah. So we will be looking forward to hearing that in just a moment. My sharing this morning is a little bit different, as this is Memorial Day weekend, and that was what seemed fitting. Besides, I realized I knew really nothing about this holiday, so I thought I would find out. After the Civil War, a leader of a Union veterans group wanted to honor all of those who had lost their lives during the war, so he called for a national day of remembrance on May 30th, 1868, called Decoration Day, because by that date, flowers would be in bloom everywhere across the country and then would be available to be placed on graves. By 1890, all of the Union states had adopted that holiday. World War I changed everything. An international war with staggering loss of life and soldiers who were there from across the entire country. Decoration Day then became a truly national day of remembrance. And then came the poppies. Remember poppies? A World War I soldier was so moved by the poppies growing that he saw blooming in fields where previously soldiers had fought and died. He wrote a poem, which then became famous. A woman here and another in France both read the poem, started wearing a poppy in remembrance, selling them to raise funds for World War I veterans, and that idea went everywhere. Ever since, poppies have been the national symbol of remembrance for those who have fallen in war. I did not know this. There is even a national poppy wall in D.C. near the mall, not far from the Lincoln Memorial, now, today, with over 600,000 poppies in remembrance of all who have died in service to their country since that First World War. In 1971, Memorial Day became the official national holiday. The date changed and the name, but not the meaning of what we honor. And now, Carol and the Goodfellows, I'm looking forward to your next song, Heart's Desire Blues. That sounds fabulous. See, everything's fabulous here. It just is.
It is. Thank you, Reverend Annette. We appreciate you. Sometimes it's hard to put it all together. We blame it on your partner, or you blame it on the weather. Sometimes it's hard to make the pieces fit. So you put away the puzzle 'cause it seems easier to quit. There's just one thing you got to do to make it easier for you. You've got to tell yourself what you want to do. You've got to tell yourself what's inside of you. You've got to tell yourself what you need to grow. You've got to tell yourself what you already know. without fear of rejection. There's just one thing you got to do to make it easier for you. You've got to tell yourself what you want to do. You've got to tell yourself what's inside of you. You've got to tell yourself what you need to grow. You've got to tell yourself what you already know. In each of us there burns a steady raging fire, with a heated voice that speaks to us as we crave our heart's desire. If we visualize, then affirmize and send it through the air, our dreams will become reality if we sow our seeds with care. And there's just one thing you got to do to make it easier for you. You've got to tell yourself what you want to do. You've got to tell yourself what's inside of you. You've got to tell yourself what you need to grow. You've got to tell yourself what you already know. You've got the heart's desire. Blues. Woo-hoo.
Ooh. That just wants to come off. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good, good. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Because it leads right into what I'm going to be talking about your heart. And so the title is What Goes Around Comes Around. Well, I want to start off with asking you guys a few questions. So you will just go work with me here because I want you to feel what we're going into. How many people here are parents? Do you remember the day that your children were born and you held them for the first time? Do you remember that love you felt and like the whole world melted away? Do you remember, who here is grandparents? Do you remember that first time you saw your child with their child and the love that you had and the whole world melted away? Who here has seen puppies or kittens born? Yeah? Do you remember that moment when you just saw this life come into this world, much like your grandchildren or your children? Can you feel that love right now? Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes just for a second. And I want you to fall into your heart like that moment you saw your grandchildren, your children, or even if you're an aunt or an uncle, or you witness a child being born, the love that you felt in that moment, a new life created by God, Spirit, whatever you pray to. I want you to feel that just for a moment. Now, once you feel it, I want you to take the breath of life. Take a deep breath in and hold that presence of love in. And now you share it with the world by letting it out. Bring it back in. Feel all that love in your body. Feel that love, deep breath in. Because now you're taking all the love that's being given in this temple and you're going to let it out. And you're going to feel that love going through all your pain, your anxiety, and the whole world is melting away in this moment. here in this temple. We're sharing and giving love and receiving love, and we're feeling it at the core of our being. And just hold it just for a second, and see this entire room, everybody in this temple, everybody that's a part of this temple, everybody that in this temple, the people in this temple come into contact with. I want you to see this love spreading through all of existence, all of the universe, all of St. Petersburg, and you, the souls you're going to touch with this presence. Feel that. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. All right. Who felt that? Yeah? Okay. So that leads me to my stories, because the name of my business is The Storytelling Alchemist, because I love stories. And what are those stories about? They're about the stories of transformation and how you transform yourself from the inner parts of the depths of your world. So I was gifted with a bunch of trips this year. The first one was to New York in March. And I remember this trip because I was so overjoyed. It was a work trip. I was only there for about a day and a half. But I was connecting with all my coworkers, and we were just laughing and just having an amazing time. And I just remember how much joy I felt when I left there. And then the very following week, I was in the French Quarter in New Orleans. And I'm sitting on if anybody's familiar with New Orleans, they have these balconies that look over Bourbon Street. And I'm sitting there in this nightclub called Oz, and I'm looking down over Bourbon Street. And my friend who I'm there with him for his birthday is talking to me. And I remember in that moment, I realized that the last time I was sitting in that spot on that balcony was 19 years prior, before Katrina. And I remember how heartbroken I was there that day because my partner and I, at the time, had such a bad fight that that was the night that it ended our relationship. And so here's the cool part, though. I was sitting there and I was like, I'm no longer hurt. I'm no longer in pain. And I'm no longer heartbroken. Because I had something that I didn't have then. I loved myself. So that's my next question for you. Have you ever just woke up in the morning, looked in the mirror, and you looked at yourself and you say, I love myself. And you just felt that presence of love so profoundly that it almost brought you to your knees. Has anybody ever experienced that? Okay. That's what we had here. Does everybody feel this presence of spirit in here? Yes. Okay. So that's that heart desire that the Goodfellows were singing. They were talking about this moment where this mind poison comes in, but the only way you get out of it is through your heart. So what goes around comes around is the realization that one day it'll keep on coming around, it'll keep on coming around, it'll keep on coming around, it'll keep on coming around until you get it. So I've been here and I've talked about my teacher Eileen and Reka, and they were part of this community here in St. Petersburg. And they used to tell me, Reka used to say, God's going to come to you and give you a lesson. And then if you're not getting it, he's going to be like, okay, darling, I'll come back when you're ready. I've got plenty of time. And if you knew Reka, she had a very thick Polish accent. And so she would say it, and you'd laugh. And Eileen was a little bit more direct than Reka was, with a lot of, I think the word is expletives, but it was a lot of fun. But what goes around comes around. When I walked into the temple today, I was introducing my friend here, Virginia Drake, who's in the audience, who is my mentor, and I'm very happy she's here today. But she came into my life in 2008, right at the time that Eileen had passed into the other side. And so the universe brings you exactly what you need at perfect time. You're always taken care of. Always. Even at times that you think you're not being taken care of, and the worst of times, this presence you feel here is still there. But we're either in fear or what? And when we're in love, we're in flow with the divine, with that presence. And so Virginia and I decided to go on an adventure because I love adventures. And she calls me up a couple weeks ago. She goes, I want to go to Titusville. And I only know about Titusville because of when I go out of the cruise ports. And so I was like, sure. So I've been thinking about RVing around the country and teaching about in spiritualist churches around the country. And then I was like, well, I found an Airbnb, and we're going to go stay at this RV. And I called her up and said, do you want to go and stay at this RV and go to Titusville? And the next day we'll go to see my friend in Casadega. She said, sure. We get there. It's this small little RV. Doesn't look like, it was still perfect though. And we go into Titusville, and it takes us forever to find a restaurant because you can't find parking. So we end up parking in the fire lane because everybody's like, no, don't worry, nobody's going to do anything. I'm like, I'm parking in the fire lane. I want my car to be there when I come out. Don't worry about it. City Hall just said, people got to park somewhere. And we were like, okay. So we go in, and we're both kind of giggling about everything that's going on and just processing. And I finally said, well, tomorrow, why don't we just get up early and go to breakfast and then go to Casadega? Well, it was interesting because a friend of mine had sent me a video of this place called Jack's Tavern, and it was supposed to be in Titusville, but it was actually in Rockledge, Florida, about 30 miles south. And we were sitting there, I was like, why don't we just go to Casadega in the morning? Well, this man sitting like 2 tables down looks at us and says, where are you guys from? And I said, Newport Richey, Tampa, that area. And he starts telling us about things we can see in the area. And then he tells us he's a former state representative for the state of Florida. He just termed out like a few months prior. So we start talking about that in a random conversation. But his conversation had me thinking all night. And I realized I still wanted to go to that Jack's Tavern. There was just something about it that was pulling me there. And so we thought it was because there was a ghost in the bathroom, and we just thought it was cool. We were going to go check it out. Well, we didn't see the ghost in the bathroom. It was supposed to be the women's bathroom, so I sent Virginia, and I said, go in there, because I'm not going to go in there. That would just be weird. So she goes in there, no ghost, no presence. She was like, if you're here. Well, we're there, and we're talking, and this girl keeps on walking by and looking at me. And I keep on looking at her and thinking, wow, there's something about her I recognize. She finally looks at me. Now, keep in mind, I'm 2.5 hours away from Tampa, and she looks at me and says, is your name Jeremy? I was like, yeah, I feel like I know you. She goes, it's Leslie. We worked together. We lived together in Brandon almost 20 years ago. So my 20 years ago has been coming back into my life because what goes around what? Comes around. So the universe was leading me to this tavern, which it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's been there since like 1861. And so I sat there and I thought, what are the chances of me running across a person that I was friends with, but we weren't super close, but to her, she just lit up when she saw me. Well, so next time I go over there, we're gonna have dinner together. But my point here is the universe is guiding you and giving you messages all the time, and if you're in your heart's desire, in your heart, you're going to be in these moments where you're going to know where you need to be, what you need to do, and what you need to say. So we go to my friends in Casadega. And has anybody here ever done table tipping before or experienced it? I never have. I've always wanted to. It was powerful. It was very powerful. But what was more powerful is as we started to put our hands on the table and everybody was asking to connect with their family members, the table kept on leaning over on my leg. It just kept on pushing over on my leg, so, which I knew was my mother. Well, when the table leans on your leg, it means that you're getting a hug from the spirit that's pushing on it or manipulating the table. But I felt the presence push against my knee as if somebody was leaning over, hugging me, and their body was touching my knee. And you felt all this love. So if you're in your heart's desire, you're what? You're in the flow and the presence of spirit. Does anybody relate to this? Maybe not to the table tipping part, but to the presence of spirit. And that's what we're all looking for, because we're looking for that presence of love and the heart's desires within our lives at all times. And what happens is we get into fear, and what happens? We miss it. We miss it. We miss the opportunity to really experience that presence of Spirit and that unconditional love that we're all looking for. But we're looking for it outside of ourselves. It starts within, and when it's, as the song says, and then everything else just manifests through that. So none of it means anything unless you have that presence of that unconditional love and of the heart within inside of yourself. And then you share that with other people like we were doing earlier. And so the most powerful part of the evening last night is we got home, and my friends, that I used to run a Sunday spiritual group at a coffee house in a place called Sacred Grounds in Tampa. And the lady that owned it and her partner came over last night, and there was this moment where Mandy, who's a friend of mine, opened her heart up, and she was literally had this presence of love, and you could feel the radiance of love just literally pushing off of her and flowing through the air to us. Has anybody ever experienced that before? That amount of energy of love and healing energy. Now, and she literally couldn't talk. She said, "Oh, my body is just vibrating." And so we had to keep her in her body. Stay in your body. But the presence between the two of them and the love that they had and the love we had for each other, that's healing. Imagine what would happen in your body, all your pain and your anxiety and all the things that are causing your body to feel all that stuff. Pain is pay attention inward now. That means at some point in your life, somebody has hurt your feelings and you have held on to it, and it's now tightened in your body, and it's blocking the flow of energy to flow through the energy meridians within your body and to heal it. Because love is flow. Love is the presence of the mother, of the divine mother, literally creating around you. The divine father sets intentions, and the divine mother molds around and creates and envelopes you in this moment. Amen. And so that's what we're all looking for. But it's when our mind starts getting caught up in all the stuff, and just before we were coming up here, my mind poison started coming up there because I knew I was going to share my heart with you, and there was this nervousness that came in, and then the Goodfellows sang that you have to talk to yourself in this song, and I said, "Yeah, they're right. That's what you have to do. You have to talk to yourself." And I said internally, "You got this." So don't miss it, everybody. Don't miss it. Don't miss your opportunities to be in your heart. The last story I'll leave you with is my friend says to me last night, she's telling us a story about how she saw a friend of hers waiting for the bus. And she said in her mind, she thought, "I need to just grab him and pull him in the car and said, I'll drive you anywhere, wherever you want to go." She felt it in that moment, but she felt, "I also need to go take care of my mother and I don't want to be late." And then she realized, and then 3 weeks later, she found out that he was out somewhere and he's no longer with us. So we'll just leave it at that. So she was heartbroken that she missed this opportunity to connect with her friend. But then we said to her last night, that man gave his life so that you could see your own heart and an opportunity that you missed, but it's not about guilt. It's about now you'll never miss those opportunities again. He gave his life so you can sit in your heart and you can be in this present and you don't miss those moments. And that's what I want you all to take from this. Don't miss it, because if you miss it, you don't want regret to come in. Live your life to the fullest. And I guarantee you, you will have joy and abundance of all things that make you happy. And I'll leave you with that. Much love.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much. From our heart to yours. Yes. Wow. Powerful talk. So now we move into our time of our tithes and offerings, and we invite you to take your tithes and your gifts in your hands and bless them as the ushers come forth. And let us pray. Infinite radiant source of life, we give thanks for this opportunity to share from our hearts. And we know that these gifts that we give come forth to bless this temple in so many ways. And we acknowledge that divine love moving through each and every one of us blesses and multiplies all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. And so it is. Amen.
All right.
And those of you who are with us on social media, we invite you to also participate in donating. If you're on the website, you can press the donate button there. And if you're on YouTube, then we invite you to go to the website, tlgtemple.org. Thank you. And we invite you then to, of course, hit the donate button there. And we thank you so much for participating in that as well. And so let us close out the service with our final song by Carol and the Goodfellows.
So yes, this is our final song of the month, and you guys can sing it with us. So I would request in Jeremy's honor that we sing from our heart. So you know the words, and if you don't, they're really easy to pick up. Let's do it. God is my source.
God is my source.
God is my power.
God is my power.
God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
For all my blessings.
for all my blessings.
God gives me everything I need. God is my source.
God is my source.
God is my power.
God is my power.
God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
For all my blessings.
for all my blessings.
God gives me everything I need. Let's hear you sing it with love. Love is my source.
Love is my source.
Love is my power.
Love is my power.
Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
For all my blessings.
for all my blessings.
Love gives me everything I need. Let me hear you. Love is my source.
Love is my source.
Love is my power.
Love is my power.
Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
For all my blessings.
for all my
Love
blessings.
gives me
Everything I need.
joy. Joy is my source.
Joy is my source.
Joy is my power.
Joy is my power.
Joy gives me
Everything I need.
So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
For all my blessings.
for all my blessings.
Joy gives me everything I need. Joy is my source.
Joy is my source.
Joy is my power.
Joy is my power.
Joy gives me
everything I need.
So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
For all my blessings.
for all my blessings.
Joy gives me everything I need. Peace. Peace is my source.
Peace is my source.
Peace is my power.
Peace is my power.
Peace gives me
everything I need.
So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
For all my blessings.
for all my blessings.
Peace gives me
everything I need.
Peace is my source.
Peace is my source.
Peace is my power.
Peace is my power.
Peace gives me
everything I need.
So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
For all my blessings.
for all my blessings.
Peace gives me everything I need. Break it down, God. God gives me everything I need. Love. Love gives me everything I need. Thanks, y'all. See you in the lobby. Don't forget the jewelry sale. Don't forget our guest speakers right after we snack.